we still have 2 minutes to go. In Germany, a bit of a joint webinar. We will soon tell you that we an amazing audience today. Very large scale. Looks like the half of the globe is actually attending. I'm Oliver Wittig. So I'm recently doing most of the DECT things we do in Snom, or like interest large ones. And with me is my colleague Mark.
Morning.
Mark is the head of the INDOP team. Shortly introduce yourself.
Yes, so my name is Mark. I work in the INDOP team. We make sure that both our desk phones and mobile phones run on the most common platforms in the world. Yeah, that's basically my job, and that involves also pre-sales, a little bit of support, QA, and yeah, that's what I do on a daily basis.
Okay, so let's look at that. So today we really have an amazing audience. We're actually quite surprised. It's not just the same time zone like South Africa, for example. They join at more or less the same time like us. We have Russia, we have the Middle East, which is obviously today missing lunch for our webinar. But what is really amazing, we have New Zealand. So they basically stay late. Australia, of course, and we have really early riser in the US. So, I mean, thanks for that. 3:30, I'm not sure if I would attend the webinar. Mexico, late sleeper, maybe you just stopped partying, so hopefully we can make up to your party. Okay, thanks a lot for the huge audience today, and let's just go into it and start. So, first of all, housekeeping. The webinar, as usual, will be recorded. So I start the record button now. So from now on, we will record the webinar. And after the webinar, you get the copy of the presentation. The presentation will also have a few extra slides which have a bit more detailed product comparison, things like that. Because we will not go into real product comparison. We will today focus more on what we really have done with the product and how you should actually use it. So you get the copy. We will have a DECT wireless presentation, no doubt about that. Question and answers can be done anytime. That's why Mark in the background is actually sitting and waiting. So Mark will try to answer all the questions to the audience via chat. And if there's a very specific question only for the one who actually asked, he also will try. If there's questions which have let's say a common interest, he makes sure that he just stops me from talking, and we will discuss the question directly here on the webinar to everyone. So like this, we will not have a real question and answer session, even though at the end of the day we will do so. But if you have a question, if something comes up to your mind, please use the chat, just to make sure that nothing gets unheard, let's say. So please do that, and let's start. So Snom, everyone who has joined the webinar knows Snom, that's clear. So we have everything. We have fixed and mobile phones and even solutions for quite a while. So we came from the fixed LAN cable type of desktop phones with all the accessories you need. We marketed this quite successfully for like the last, 11, 12 years. And a couple of years ago, we started SIP DECT, or how other people call it today is IP DECT. In the US, for example, when we started that was highly unknown. So we basically wanted to combine a technology which is actually quite old, DECT, with IP, SIP, with things we really knew. So how to do? Like we have our own SIP stack, we developed all the servers around, but we did not know what to do with mobile. So we combined a very good proven technology, DECT, together with what we know about SIP and about IP. So that's basically the mobile thing we started, and this is just the third generation now. The third generation, you will see, is unlike all the others before. So why DECT? DECT, first of all, it is an old technology, which means maybe you can compare it to, you have a car with petrol, maybe we should not say car with diesel in the US, not to mention VW, but let's say you have a car with petrol. The car with petrol always works, so 100 years of experience. This is like DECT. And then you have the e-car. So the e-car is actually very sexy, very nice, but you never know when it stops. You never really know if the battery life sustains. This would be Wi-Fi mobile solutions. Yeah. So what we want to have is we want to have a real long-range, good working, easy-going product, which does everything over air. It's just working. And at the other end, we have like the normal SIP, IP, everything we know. So let's say a DECT solution has a range per base which goes easily over 100 meters. Then it has a very easy way to extend. So you can use it at home office, which is quite normal. I mean, who doesn't have a DECT phone at home actually running for years and years, and he doesn't even know it's DECT. So you start at home, but depending on the solution, if you have a real multi-cell solution, you go really small companies, bigger companies, and all this in principle you could do with Wi-Fi, but no one ever will help you with the battery problem, will help you with the reception problem, and I mean, let's face it, a real wireless solution with audio is really hard. DECT is designed for audio, so it's very clear there will be no drops, nothing. The audio will just flow. So that's why we always go DECT and not Wi-Fi. So if you have a multi-cell solution and a variety of nice handsets, you're actually not really limited. You can start very small, like at home, one base, a couple of handsets, you're fine. So if you have a bigger home, we know people unfortunately who have homes we can never afford, but they have a couple of base stations, maybe more handsets, but what is more important for them is maybe they have the next garage for their like 6 cars they put. We actually really know individuals like this who think about building garages for the next 6 cars. Well, so they want to expand. They don't really look into money, even though in this case the DECT solution is not even expensive, but they just want to grow. So, but let's go back to business. So you start very small. It somehow works out quite nicely. I mean, let's just look at the history at Snom. We started with like 3 people. We are around 100. America thinks we are about 400 people, and with a company like this, it always grows. So you have bigger premises, you rent more rooms, you move, etc. And every time your system needs to go with you. So telephony has to grow like you do. So in this case, if you decided to have a mobile solution internally, it's a piece of cake. You put a couple of more base stations and you grow with the business. And if the business goes down, sell the base station to someone, or just keep it, or do whatever. Yeah? So what did we do? Because there's quite a couple of systems out in the market. So what we made sure that our system has the real Snom provisioning. So if you're into Snom, if you're a reseller, or if you're a user, whatever, you know exactly how to use a Snom phone. You know Snom provisioning, and you know why this actually made us what we are. So you have control over it. You can give your customer or yourself a decent system which turns up and running, let's say, even automatic, plug and play, and all this we put into the DECT system as well. So you have the Snom provision, you know. You have the redirect, you know. It's nothing new. It's a couple of different names for settings, but the principle is exactly the same. since we talked to quite a couple of PBX vendors, the real PBX market leaders, let's say, they jumped on the product when it said Snom and when it said Snom provisioning very quickly and tried to put the best out of it to make sure that even on their own product, auto provisioning is doable. So what do we have? So we have quite complete product overview. So we have the M700 base station. This is the multi-cell base station. We give a couple of details later. We have a single cell solution, like when I say home office or small business, very, very small business, a startup, let's say, you have just one single cell and you have a couple of handsets. So this one will not grow. This is what you know from others. Yeah? If you go to electronics shop of your choice, you have those things every time. So we have that. Then of course we have handsets. We have a small handset, the M25. We have a decent mid-range handset, M65, which people really like for the design and for the, you have something in hand really. It's not too light, it's not too heavy, it looks good. So people like that. And of course we have the M85, which is the ruggedized thing. So if you have someone in your company you don't like, you just throw it at him and it's not breaking. More serious people use it in industrial environments. It has an alarm button, so when something happens, you can place a call. We sometimes get questions if it also has the dead man's thing. So if you drop, you basically die. If you drop to the floor, if it automatically issues a call. Unfortunately, it cannot do it today. We will see. Maybe it will do. But this is the one which is more waterproof, very dust-proof, shock-proof. So this is the one to throw. Then, of course, in the DECT solution, so what we had so far is the absolute necessity to make calls and to have a decent thing. What we have here is accessories. Repeaters, for example. A repeater, people also know from Wi-Fi, and DECT is the same thing. For a repeater, the only thing you really need is power. You put it somewhere, you connect it to the existing base, and then it extends the range of the reception. So let's say a typical thing would be I have a base here and I see out in the field here, because I'm in stadium in Denmark right now, I can see someone running over the football place. So if I would put the repeater half range, I could easily go with the DECT phone up to the next goal. Yeah, so which is easily 150 meters. No problem. This works with DECT, just like that. So, and what I would need for the repeater is power only. So that's a very useful thing if you want to extend the reach on places where you do not have LAN and which are basically the outside places. So then we have something which is totally undervalued to my mind. This is the PoE adapter for the M300. In fact, it's a real PoE adapter. So LAN in, power, and LAN out. The nice thing about it, if you look at all the competitors existing, they have really bulky devices. I don't know why. This thing is doing full PoE, small, has no, let's say, there's no need to put it only for M series. You can use it from any phone, any whatever. So if you need PoE injector, here's the one. One port, very easy, price-wise, also extremely competitive.
Oliver,
just
just a quick point here. It's actually the adapter for the M700 series. So if you don't have a PoE switch and you want to power an M700 base station, you can use this A5 PoE adapter.
Yeah, very true. Yes, well, M300 does not really need it. But the main thing is, it is really PoE. It's just a normal one-line PoE adapter. Yep. So just check on your electronics store, look at the bulky thing, look at the Snom thing, look at the pricing, you will see it has nothing to do with mobile or not mobile. It's just a decent PoE adapter. So that's the accessory. So it's really useful above fancy. So it's nothing. It's nothing. Let's say it's really nothing fancy, but it's what you want to have. So now the big guys. So M700, the base we play mostly with. this thing, even though very small, can combine or can build a multicell of up to 50 of those single base stations. So one thing like here is already doing a lot, but you can have with 50 base stations, you can span a huge range. As a multi-cell, you have up to 200 handsets per installation. It's 200. You have like, of course, wideband audio. You have the normal narrowband audio. Wideband audio in the DECT space is not really needed. It actually cuts down your performance by half, and normally no one really is using it. But in even this, it can do wideband audio. But the most important thing is it has seamless roaming. Seamless roaming means whenever I move from one base to another and I have a call and I move further and I talk and I talk and I talk, I should not miss one drop of audio. I should not miss even one drop. So it's not like, let's say, if you have Wi-Fi experience, you know that audio sometimes is, well, it's lame. In DECT, this should not happen. This cannot happen because DECT is dedicated for audio. So whenever you walk, you have audio. And it has to be like this. That's why we sell DECT, not Wi-Fi. So it has repeater support, of course. So on a base station, you can add the repeater to extend the range, for example, to the parking lot or to the football place here. It has no provisioning. Never forget that. It's DECT solution. It's a multi-cell solution we sell, but it has no provisioning and it has the Snom features you already know for years. It has no hidden cost for licensing. That means what is inside. Let's say, for example, this thing does 8 parallel calls, audio calls, concurrent audio calls. There is no extra license for having maybe 2 more or whatever, or no license for building a cell of a multi-cell or whatever, or building a bigger multi-cell. There's no additional license. You just have the base, and what is additionally very, very nice. Normally, if you're familiar with DECT multi-cell solution, you know that you need something like a management system, because you have so many bases. You somehow need to understand where should they sit, and then how they are connected, A to B, B to C, whatever. And all this is not needed. There's no manager, no software, nothing. It's just on this one base. Everything is on board to build the cell and maintain and manage. And you do this just via the web interface off the base. That's it. Very, very simple. Very straightforward. So handsets, okay. It's again even a wideband speakerphone. So hands-free is actually quite amazing. You would not expect that a thing like this can be working on hands-free so nicely. It's wideband. That means in this case Cat IQ 110 compliant for the DECT experts. It has, of course, DECT encryption. So we will not fall into the thing we had years ago in Europe when everyone could actually easily tap a DECT system just by driving with a car outside of the street. This is not happening. Even at that time, Snom had the DECT system which have been encrypted. So we have not been affected. Of course, we kept it that way. We have a very, very nice standby time and talk time. 250 hours standby. I normally put it divided by 2, so 125 hours standby. Just imagine with your Wi-Fi mobile device, forget it. Yeah? I love my mobile, but well, I charge it twice a day. If I would use it as a Wi-Fi handset, my mobile, maybe I would have to charge it 3 times a day. This thing just has maybe 10 hours talk time, easy. No problem. Huh? So, local and shared address book, very important. What do you need for telephony? You need audio, and you need, of course, you need to have your own address book, and you need to have your company address book. All this is supported. There's a headset check for headset. Then software upgrade. We mentioned it here. Is over the air. What this really means is, if you want to have, let's say you have 200 handsets running right now, and you need to make an upgrade because maybe there's an extra feature or something improved, the cell itself updates the handset while you are talking. So basically it downloads the firmware already. Only for the last step, the last 1.5 to 2 minutes, you have to place it in the handset. Then it gets flashed completely. It's a very, very convenient thing, and it's very safe, because you don't miss a call, nothing drops. The only thing you need to know, if you put it in the handset, you wait 2 minutes and then everything is up and running again with new firmware. Very nice. So over the air is actually quite a thing to manage. Sounds easy, but it's not. So vibration alert, belt clip, illuminated keypad for, let's say, a bit of dark days, all is there. So that's the M65. It's like the most popular we have. In terms of design, we made it very simple. Of course, it's color, but as you can see, we are not using color like the Chinese. It's not a rainbow device here. Yeah? So it doesn't blink and flash and whatever, and here's pinkish color, here's yellow, here's something stupid. No, it's really elegant design, and it's just easy to understand. No complicated things, no whatever. Yeah, it's just very plain, easy to use, elegant design. That's it. People love it for that. So we have the small brother, M25. It has natural speech, which does not mean it has wideband, but remember my comment from the beginning, wideband in a DECT system actually is not needed. You just spend more on the deployment. Why should you do that? Yeah? So but G726, for those who know codecs, is not speech-centric, it's also music. So G726 is natural speech and also music. So you can easily hear it. That it sounds better than the usual telephony, you know, from whatever ISDN, analog line, G711, whatever. Yeah? It's just not wideband, but it sounds not as good, but very nicely. So DECT encryption, of course, it's a must. 75-hour standby. Here you can see the small one has just half of the power. And that's the big thing. So M65 and M25 are more or less the same, but the M25 has half of the battery power. So think about it. If it's something you carry around all the time, you go M65. All the rest is the same. Headset, local, shared address book. And then this is a bit of a step back. So let's say if you know exactly, you're not going to have something complicated, something which grows, etc. You just want to have something small for your maybe home office, whatever. You want to look for the next DECT solution you want to put. We have a single cell solution. This is the M300 plus the M25 headset. It's a bundle, M325. We call it a big solution for the small office. Why do we do that? In principle, if you compare this to, for example, like Giga said, small is the same. The difference here is that the M300 single cell, not expandable really, is actually a really powerful thing. It can connect 20 handsets. No one in the industry can do that, and it has 5 concurrent calls on this small base. So if you want to have a single cell, you don't want to expand any further, but you might need more than 6, 9 handsets, which can be. Then this one is your solution. You have 20 handsets, 5 concurrent calls, all on one base. You have repeater support to support the range, well, extend the range. You have full encryption on all the parts, and again, for all those Snom lovers, you have Snom provisioning. And we even put it in German here, Snom provisioning, bewährtes weiterzuführen. More or less like proven things go on. That's what it means. So, but back to the big systems. So M700 can build a multi-cell. A multi-cell can look as messy as this one. So a lot of base stations and a lot of handsets. Just think about it. A company with a building spanning 3, 4, 5 floors. What should you do? And it's not about the number of employees running around with the handsets. It's about maybe there's 2 or 5 only which need to have a phone within a company premises and need to be reached all the time. So here you go, DECT Multicell. So now, what is it? So we now try to understand what the multicell really means. So let's say a base station, a single base station, can easily cover 100-meter indoor and 300-meter outdoor. If you're conservative like me, you again divide it by 2. So you have indoor 50 meter normal office environment easily, and outdoor 150 meter. Outdoor means maybe there's a tree in between, no perfect line of sight. So you will have 150 meters easily. But more important, you have seamless roaming. Seamless roaming, just to remind, seamless roaming means at every point within this area, you have audio, and there's not one drop of audio missing. And when you move from one base to another, you still have audio. That's why we put 2 bases here and these funny circles. The circle basically is the reception of one base. So the 2 bases see each other. That means inside this area, you can move and you will not have a drop of audio failing. You will always hear. So what happens? What is seamless roaming really? So you have the handset in hand, let's say, and you start walking. Let's say on the right side you have this faded base station. This base station basically now is out of range of your mobile devices, of your DECT M65 handset. So what is the thing doing? It's normally connected, so the device itself you have in hand, it's connected to not just one base station. Ideally it's connected to 3 base stations, but it's doing audio only with 1. Why 3? Because it has automatic failover. And if you do the cell design, which we discuss briefly later, nicely, you will have audio because it can fail over easily from one to another. And if you even see 3, you can fail over from A to B to C. So no matter what happens, audio comes from somewhere. In this case, it's very simplified. We lose the white dish base station because it's out of range, but we found the other one. So audio automatically switches over from the right side to the left side. You don't hear. You just don't hear. There's a screenshot at the bottom. So if you have the slides, just look into it. You see that in this live case, the handset actually sees 5 bases. 5 maybe is a bit overdone, but 3 is good to go. So everyone asks, how many calls can I make? Yeah, well, a base station itself, one single thing, can do 8 concurrent calls in narrowband or 4 wideband audio calls concurrent. So 4 people talking at a time. So what should we do if, for example, we have a high density area? So in a typical warehouse, there is the docking lot. So early morning, all of a sudden, a lot of people running around there. Yeah, so like rush hour times, and then maybe there's a lot of calling needed. So if you know that, for example, in this area, we need not 8 concurrent calls, but maybe 10. Very easy solution, you put a second base station, because offloading and distributing the load of calls is again automatic. The only thing you need to do in this area, I know I have more calls. What do? I put a second base station, or I put the number of base stations I need to have to support the, very important, concurrent calls. So there's just one side note for those people who will face this. Just don't put them really next to each other. Put them in a distance, like 5 meters, for example. Rule of thumb is fine, simply because there's a lot of traffic going on over the air, and they also want to synchronize with themselves, and they fight each other. It's not like it's failing, but it's much better if you put them apart, because they fight less. So just as a reminder, 8 concurrent calls per base. If you need more, put a second base. Put them slightly apart, all fine. Again, in terms of sizing, if your customer all of a sudden says, you know, here it looks like, yeah, it's the canteen. I overestimated my people going to lunch all at once, but they still want to talk. Well, what is it? It's a 250 euro investment, and the customer is happy. One more base. So, what does that mean? For all the people who come from the PBX side, or VARs and integrators who actually sell PBXs and want to integrate, base like this can handle up to 30 SIP registration. Why 30? It's just the limit of the hardware. That's it. Yeah. By default, this is 8. Why 8? Well, It should be aligned with the concurrent calls. It does not have to be, but it's nice. So you have 8 registrations and 8 concurrent calls. But what you really need to understand that registrations do not really matter. It's just the number of users or accounts you want to have in total. It doesn't matter if the registration is on this base or on another base which is far away in the cell. For the system, the registration counts, not the place where the registration actually is. It doesn't matter if it's on base 1 or base 2. Doesn't matter. Just remember, 30 is the absolute maximum. So for 2 bases, you can only have 60 SIP registration. But with 2 bases, you would only have 16 parallel calls. So just again, a bit of calculation. So if I would like to have 91 handsets, what would be the minimum number of bases? Well, divided by 30, you find out, okay, 3 times 30 plus another base, that would be 4 bases. But this is really a theoretical thing. Think about it, 91 handsets in a very small area, a cell like this out of 4 will not happen. So you have plenty of registrations left if you have a multi-cell in any case. We had one customer who actually put only 1 base, and he wanted to edit more than 10 handsets. Since the default was 8, he had to change the default to 12 or 15. I don't quite remember what he did, and now he has 15 handsets on 1 base. Well, from a sales point of view, that's not a good idea. Why not put a second base? Yeah. Why not have more concurrent calls? But maybe they come from El Chipo country, you never know. They wanted to have 1 base, that's it. Okay, fine, do it. So, real cases, like we said. This is actually our proof of concept case. They went through everything imaginable you will not go through anymore, because that was not early stages, let's say, but that was like the typical mid stages where you find the bits and pieces, the cracks and problems only in a real life systems. So Dienes is a very, very nice German Mittelstand, how I would call it, company. So that's where Germany comes from. A family-owned business, and they do amazing machinery. What they actually do, they do cutting machines. Slitting business. It sounds a bit weird, but yeah, it seems to be called like that. So they do cutting machines, and it's not just cutting machines. Just as an example, they can cut toilet paper, but in a pace you would not imagine. They make like 1 kilometer. They make 1 kilometer per minute in cutting. It's really amazing. So the thing is fast. Well, so real machinery. They have an area like this. As you can see, it's not far away, of course, but maybe becomes far away, or vice versa. Far away becomes like this. You never know. Typical family business. You can actually see the houses of the owner top in this small park, and then let's say in the morning breakfast, you see what you have done in your life. And they do this machinery. They build these nice machines, and they have 20,000 square meters. Several buildings. Of course, there is sales, there is support, there's everything. There's high density areas. They have canteen, and of course, most importantly, they have manufacturing facilities. Plus, they have storage. So what they wanted to have is they wanted to have only 50 headsets for those people who run around all the time. Yeah, mostly in production halls. So, and of course they have Snom desk phones, which is nice for us because Snom DECT phones, well, we know for years, for us, that's easy business. So they wanted to have this combined with that. They actually managed. They had, of course, a budget constraint. They didn't want to have more than 20 bases. I guess we had at the end of the day 17, so even this worked for the whole 20,000 square meters. And what is important about that is they basically combine everything you will face. So they have a building which is administration, or 2 buildings administration, and in this building there's a high call density area, call center. So we learn from the start. So let's say this small call center thing here. Here a lot of people want to call. They don't have only desk phones. They again also use DECT phones because sometimes they need to go in storage and check, etc. So in this area there's more than 8 concurrent calls. So they got 2 bases. Then the rest of the administration is 3 floors, I guess, the house, a very nice old house, 3 floors. In each floor there's 1 base station to make sure the cell works. And then from building 1 to building 2, there's a gap. Yeah, lorries drive through this one. So you need to have a clean cell from building 1 to building 2. In this case, it's quite easy because buildings are not too far apart, so we could easily do over-the-air connection. And then you have the manufacturing thing. In manufacturing, especially in machinery, you have a lot of steel. On not just steel, you have massive steel. And DECT is sensitive to steel. So if you have steel, you need to make a real assessment, a real range assessment with all bases. So they have very clever people there working, so they helped us a lot. And if you see the red steel structure, that's part of the daily storage, I would say. So where you put things you need daily. And that was really fenced in steel. So in this case, you could not make like the easy way, put a base station in the middle, and that's it, and then everyone is fine. No, this steel thing here, the red one, reflects DECT. So you get hardly anything behind the wall, let's say, behind the steel. So what you have to do, you just go sideways, and then inside the structure. And why twice? You want to have failover. If the buffing fails, it goes via the bottom. So these are things you have to remember. So first of all, there's building-to-building connections. If you can make it over the air, super, fine, problem solved, roaming everywhere. And then you have steel structures. Always assess. Never ever guess where the base station should be. So we did that. They helped us a lot. They deployed the 50 handsets. We had 2 weeks. 2 weeks we learned a lot about machinery and a lot about DECT, etc. And until now, it's up and running, and they are more than happy, and they use it daily. And now they think about more M85 because they also have people who are really rough guys. So what they also had, which was a big plus for us, they had a PBX system which has 100% full automatic provisioning for DECT chain, and DECT handsets. This is just screenshots from the thing. So you could build your cell via the PBX, and not only the cell, you could also register each handset. Let's see if I can show. No, mouse doesn't come up anymore. Okay. On the right side, you see that Snom M65. There's a list of handsets. So you have the handsets one by one, everything provisioned, and even at the bottom of the screen, you see how your cell looks like. So you have a cell structure. So you put base by base, you have the cell structure, you have everything, you have base stations, and you have handsets, very nicely integrated. So we have a couple of more PBXs like this, but this was the first one to actually support it, the full-grown DECT system. Very, very nice. Okay. There's always something which goes back to the community. In our case, one guy from the Stines group actually gave the community a way to, if you have a running DECT station and you know how to start a script on Linux, you can have a live DECT tree printout and measurement with his script, what he wrote. Just look into it. If you need to study the DECT tree, or you need to give to the customer how it really the layout looks like, this is a live layout.
Oliver.
So, yeah.
Just a quick interruption. I hope this fits more or less. We have a question about redundancy. So, for example, what will happen with phone registrations when one base station goes out?
Yeah. There's two sorts of redundancies. The one I mentioned with the steel structure, for example, you need to make sure that the bases have a second way to do. But on the handsets, it's even easier. So let's say it comes later a bit more in detail, but in principle, what you want to have always a sort of triangle. You want to have 3 bases, a handset Z's, and at any time. So whenever 2 of those fail, there will still be 1. So in this case, you have over redundancy even. So 2 bases per handset. So each handset should see 2 bases. This is, let's say, normal redundancy, but with free floor-to-floor buildings, we come to that later, is the one you have to go for. And whenever you unplug one base, it switches over to another one. In this case, you might even hear a click or something, so it's not like you won't hear it, but redundancy is automatic because you build this cell like this, that a handset can never have a connection to one base only, because it makes no sense. Yeah? So 2 redundancies we have. One is basically handset sees many bases, or here in this example, if there's a complicated path in your environment, make sure there's not one path only, it's 2 paths, top and bottom in this case. So, multi-cell facts to remember: 8 concurrent calls, 4 concurrent HD audio calls per base. Think about 8, check it, and you will see it's fine. Maximum 200 handsets for lots of users, oh yes, and maximum 50 bases for large or difficult areas. Difficult areas, for example, very heavy steel structures. You need more bases, quite clear. So with this one, you can basically cover everything imaginable. But there's more. We do have light systems now, which have, which theoretically supports 254 bases plus 1,000 handsets. This basically is a different firmware. We don't put this live yet, simply because, I mean, who on earth needs that? Yeah. But we have projects, interesting enough, but it's very little. In any case, think about, you can even grow above the 50 bases and above the 200 handsets. Then you make sure you contact us, because that's why we are here. Professional service at Snom DECT is actually very, very experienced now. More than 1 year of quite complicated projects, actually. So make sure you call us before, just to make sure that everything goes smoothly, because a deployment like this should never ever fail. So where did we do that? You know, you need to test it. So we went to Chaos Computer Camp. Chaos Computer Camp is something which happens all 4 years. You know, the Chaos Computer Club, it's the same people. What they do, they meet all 4 years in whatever remote place, and then they build a city. It's like a city. People bring even ice cream machines to this venue. So it's basically a campsite with internet unimaginable. So we went there because they have a very old, very nicely working analog Alcatel DECT solution. Nothing wrong with the DECT solution from Alcatel. The only thing which is wrong, it's analog. It's no longer supported. You cannot get anything. So they need to look into the next generation, and they ask us to just try. Let's say, do it as a tryout, and that's what we had to do. So the area was 1 square kilometer. The basis we estimated 50 to 60. Remember, the normal firmware which is on the basis has only 50 bases, so we wanted to go the next step to up to 254 bases. And handsets, very little, only 100. Okay, we tried that. And this is a real greenfield deployment. I mean, you know, there's grass everywhere. It's a campsite, so greenfield, very nice. So we did that. That's what we've seen. So the place it was is Miltenberg in, not too far from Berlin. It's an old brick building construction site from like hundreds of years ago, with brick buildings where they had brick walls of like 4 meter thickness. 4 meter thickness in DECT, believe me, is also complicated. Yeah, it's not only Wi-Fi which cannot easily come through. So what we needed to have, we had an open area, and we had buildings shielding the area, and we had to put up a lot of base stations, and then make sure that within this area on the right side you see that we could move freely and have audio every time, no interruption. Maximum 100 handset. So handset was not the issue. The issue was the area. And now look at the funny mesh. Yeah? The red points are the base stations. So why should we put base stations here? Well, that was the restriction by Chaos Computer Club, because they have what they call data loops, so like toilets. You know, the typical plastic things they put on construction sites. Those toilets they use, and internally it's only switches and equipment, etc. And we put our bases inside. So those toilets, let's say, they have fixed places. So bases are all over the place, and then now the black arrows actually represents a DECT multicell, a living cell at that time, because it changes automatically. The thing reconfigures itself when, for example, you have a case like this. Yeah? This down base station, which is called Mexico, so in the middle. This one could not be reached from the base station above, which you would assume because it's the nearest. How comes it cannot be reached? Simply because the building in between had so massive walls that it shielded it completely. So the multi-cell system is automatically understanding I cannot reach this base station, so I take the other one, which was called New York. So let's say the shadowing, when shadowing happens, they have a small train, or they have a small train in this area. So let's say if the train comes by, then of course the train shields base stations from each other. And then they also automatically reconfigure to make sure that shadowing does not stop the system. So, and then again, there's automatic mode. There's nothing you need to know. The only thing you need to know is that you put the base stations wisely in the beginning, that they have a chance to find another one. So you put redundancy by placing base stations cleverly. That's all. All the rest later, the reconfiguration is at 100% automatic. There's one other trouble we got. This Alcatel system is an amazing system. They had 3,500 handsets. Imagine 3,500 in this campsite running on Alcatel. But Alcatel has a restriction where a new handset can register. And when our base stations have been on in registration mode, Alcatel had no chance to register anything. Simply because the registration seems to be more powerful on the Snom system. Who knows why? So we needed to shut off registration mode to make sure that Alcatel could connect phones. Well, Alcatel, in this case, is the best ever you can imagine. But it's analog, no spare parts, it's done. No way, nothing new. Now, go for us. So, second thing. No longer playing with Chaos Computer people, this time real serious stuff. Hospital, maybe the worst customer besides lawyers, let's say. If something goes wrong, people die. So there are casualties. So you should not do, let's say, mistakes. It's not even small mistakes. You should not do mistakes. And they have very specific people there, not just patients, because they are very nice. No, they have doctors. Doctors is a very complicated life form. So for them, failure, no matter how small, or even if something is not easy to use, it's a failure for them. So here you need to make sure if the doctor or I'm not even sure the term in English, let's say the chef doctor, so the boss of the doctors, if he has problem with your DECT mobile thing, cannot be reached, you are out. That's it. Yeah? You won't do this once. So many buildings, high availability areas, emergency rooms, people where they sit together discussing patient lives, let's say, patient treatments. So quite a couple of doctors sit together and talk. In this high availability area, the phone must ring if something happens. It must ring. Emergency room, same thing, must ring. Bases up to 250, that's what we estimated, because we have 14 buildings up to 6 stories, because they go down in the ground as well, 2 stories down. Handsets, 600. Well, it's not a small hospital, but it's also not the biggest imaginable, but 600 handsets only for people who really move. And it needs to have 100% roaming coverage. 100% roaming coverage means 100%. I need to go from building 1, house 1, to all the other buildings without having a drop of audio. Because he can be talking at that time and he says something important, something maybe life-saving. So there should not be any drops. So what are you doing to get this done? You do assessment and a real radio coverage assessing. So we actually made it very, very simple because it's a hospital. A hospital never have the infrastructure you would expect to have to start. Of course, they have internet, they have everything, but never at the places you need it. So for an assessment, the only thing you have basically is a base station. You have a handset, and in this case, you have a thing where you can place the base station for a minute on the ceiling where it should end up at after the electricians have been there and all the builders came. So in the M700 series, this assessment can really be done only with power and with one handset, because the handset already gives you the assessment mode. So for those people who have large projects, make sure you call us. We explain how the assessment mode works again and how to assess correctly. But just, let's say, the assessment team is key. We somehow did hide the guys because I'm not quite sure if they want to be known all over the world, but very interesting, well, you see me at least, very interesting is the guy in black on the big picture, because the guy in black you don't see is really watching me carefully, because I'm from Snom and they are the one responsible for the hospital. So they trust us, but they do trust us only to a certain degree. So this guy, when I did assessment for my base, because we had 3 teams, let's say, everyone had 1 base. Why 3 bases, so 3 teams? Because we wanted to have this triangular redundancy thing. Yeah? For example, from floor to floor. 2 people with the bases are in floor 1, let's say, and the other one is in floor 2. And you need to make sure that you have even connection from floor to floor. So when I put this thing somewhere carefully, the guy was still watching me and checking if I really do it carefully. And in fact, he's right, because you should not make any mistakes in the assessment. So double check, or like Americans maybe say now, quadruple check. Just make sure that from your one handset, the 3 bases, because of redundancy and everything you want, you're happy about later. And if it costs 1 more base, or the customer pays 10% more, who cares? Because the customer will not have problems, means you don't have problems. So, but assessment team is key. So must be the right person to do that. It's not a complicated thing. It's more like you have to be disciplined. That's it. Yeah. So, and then how to do assessment goals. We need redundancy per base. Okay, we discussed about that. We need a coverage, because the handset gives you coverage. Minus 70 dB is just a rule of thumb, which is okay. Then you make sure that you have floor-to-floor redundancy. That's easy. You just put 2 or 3 bases inside in one long floor, for example. But building-to-building or floor-to-floor, sorry. Floor-to-floor means from one etage to another etage. So like second floor, third floor. 2 in one and 1 in the next floor. Just to make sure that if something fails downstairs, the upstairs base station is still serving you. That worked very nicely in the hospital, because they need floor to floor, because sometimes they even use elevators. Elevator is a tough thing for DECT, but staircase, for example, is standard. Yeah? So building to building connections can be tough if the buildings are too far apart. If they are, there's another way to do, but in this case, work. So at the end of the day, assessment goal, full air coverage auto DECT tree. Auto DECT tree means redundancy, which is automatic. So do's. That's just details do not really matter. It's just what you do as an assessment team. You use the handset. You have a special assessment mode. You select your base station. You press the call button twice, because what you have then, you don't need a PBX. You have an automatic echo with the base. So you even can check audio, not just the reception, but also audio. Very, very nice. And then you look for good reception of 2 other bases, just to make sure that redundancy is super. Direct hallway coverage, for example, tends to be very far and safe. Yes, if you have a hallway which is straight, maybe 100 meters or 50 meters in this hospital, they had 60, 70 meters hallways. Of course, if you have a clean line of sight, you can put 2 bases or maybe even 1. It always works. Yeah, but what if a lot of people come? What if a lot of vats sit in between? What if they put something out of steel? Make sure you think about that too. Floor to floor I mentioned many times. It's important. If one floor goes down, the second floor can actually serve you. Very near fire safety doors. So everything which is really, really big, really steely, behind elevator, for example, just check carefully. Do not guess. Don't. Guesswork-based placement. See exactly the point. Always assess. Never ever guess. Oh, you know, in this building, at that floor, we had 2 bases. At that, in this exact place, it looks the same. We do it the same. No. You assess. You really measure. Non-redundancy radio coverage. Don't risk. Be on the safe side. If the coverage looks okay, maybe it's not good enough. Make sure the coverage looks good or better, and then even a lorry can be in between, and it will still work. Direct path base station. Yeah, it's nothing special. Human bodies is interesting. Human bodies are also, let's say, hindering good coverage. So again, make sure in a hallway, maybe this hall all of a sudden is full of people. Let's say in schools also use DECT systems. If all pupils come out, if there's pause or whatever, yeah, you have all of a sudden 50 kids running around. The signal will be not as good. So underestimate concurrent call areas. Yeah, well, if you need more calls, the worst thing which can happen is that the call cannot be done, or it cannot roam because there's no channel. So 1 more base, problem solved. Multi-primary, where not necessary, comes later. Completely different story. So let's somehow recap. A living cell is a cell when bases see each other over the air very nicely. Ideally, each base sees another 2. Then you have a very, very nice living cell. You need to make sure in your projects for your customer, tell them you need whatever, 2 days to assess the building, tell them what it costs. The customer will be happy to pay for it because that's his lifeline. So what happens if you have buildings which cannot be synced over the air? So which means from base 1 in building 1 to base 2 in building 2, maybe there's 1 kilometer in between, or maybe there is a city in between, or whatever. Yeah, sync over LAN or sync over air. So the DECT system is designed to sync over air. That's very important because we want to have people walking around. But what if we want to have one part of the cell and put it in another building which is far away? No air sync. The good news is the Snom system can even do that, because it has a mode which is multi-primary, which supports LAN sync. Of course, you cannot call in between those 2 areas, left and right, but you can make sure that you have, let's say, still one cell. You move from one building to another. Of course, if you leave the first building, you lose the connection. Of course, it's like this. You enter the next building, and then you get you get your registration back, and you can make your calls again. We still do not recommend to do that because PBX-wise, you could have 2 cells, and the PBX can somehow make the routing, etc. But it's also working. So if there's no other way, you can even do a LAN sync. We just say the whole beauty about the system is that everything is over air, and you never lose a drop of audio. So a lot of facts. As you can see, we are really into it. If you want to get more and more hands-on, we will do again M700 training. The next training, I guess, is in Hamburg, and then there's another one scheduled for somewhere in Spain, and then surely France, clearly US very soon. Mexico, I'm not too sure, but we have people from Russia. I wouldn't mind to have something in Moscow. This training gives you exactly what you need. You build your own multi-cell step by step, and you understand the multi-primary thing. So if all of a sudden not over the air sync only, and most important of all, for example, if you're a PBX vendor, you go into Snom provisioning. PBX vendors, by the way, do not need to have really this training, but they can also contact us or Mark before, that we can give them all the basics they need to have a decent integration in their own PBX for fully auto provisioning, something like that. Yeah? So, but most important in the training is really experience sharing. We got so many interesting people telling us what they wanted to do with the DECT system, etc., and how they would like to do that. And that is really, really nice. Yeah, bring your ideas, and then you will see. It's a one-day thing normally. Yeah, can be done. We got actually quite decent feedback. So think about it. If it's a big project, do not think about it. Do the training or make sure you contact us. So let's say the only thing I can say is we really enjoyed doing the hospital assessment. You know, if you're in the emergency room, blood is still on the floor, you're wandering, and the doctors are actually very nice to you. All the staff is nice to you because they think they get something new, exciting, etc. So that was really, really very, and we learned a lot again, and the thing is running. So a lot of things which really make sense. Enjoy your own project, and if it's done or if it's complicated, let us know and let us do something out of it. And Mark, let's hear. Maybe there's more things we can share.
Yes, well, thanks, Ollie. I've been quite busy answering most of the questions parallel. We have one question: how did you calculate the human body impact in the hospital project? Or how did you?
Yeah. Well, first of all, calculate. Well, yeah, it's also trying. What we actually did. First thing we did, we covered the handset with one hand, then with two hands, and then you see that it drops up to 6 dB already. So, and let's say looking at that and having a very safe connection of maybe -7.5 dB or whatever we had, we could easily estimate, even if it's 20 people, one after another, it will still easily go through, and we will still have audio. By the way, audio is still absolutely okay if you have -88 dB. It's just not safe for synchronization. So what we basically did is we covered the handset very, very hard to simulate a crowd of people. And don't forget, the base station, of course, sits on the ceiling. It's not like you have to go through 20 bodies or something if the base station is on the ceiling. If the base station is not on the ceiling, just make sure if you cover the thing, you still have -70 dB. Rule of thumb is, even if a lorry stands in between, then it's still working. So then bodies cannot be better.
Okay. Another quick question. This sync over LAN, if you have multi-primary, does it require multicast?
No. So multicast would be complicated over cities, let's say. In general, multicast is a very nice thing to have an automatic setup of a multicell, but multicast also means that each switch in the multicell deployment, no matter if it's taken apart or not, who can guarantee that multicast goes through every switch? That's why there's a peer-to-peer mode, which we normally prefer. So you basically say, this is my master, and each new basis, just by normal IP, no multicast, nothing, connects this thing and then starts syncing. So multicast, in general, it's very, very nice. In this non-over-the-air thing, to my mind, it's unlikely that multicast will work just system-wide, but you don't need to think about it, because you have peer-to-peer mode, which in this case should be the recommendation.
Okay. Another one. Can you describe in one sentence why to choose Snom instead of Gigaset or SpectraLink?
Now, SpectraLink is quite easy. If it's SpectraLink Wi-Fi, just test, you will see. Why not Gigaset? Gigaset is like the number one. So as you can see, I cannot describe it in one sentence. Gigaset is number one. Has decent design, has a very nice multi-cell system. We have people switching from Gigaset. a couple. It's never for the design and also not really for the DECT reception, because this is exactly the same thing. Design, you can argue, but the reception is the same. The only thing which Gigaset somehow tends to do complicated is that you need to have a management to do this sort of management thing to do the cell, and then they have this assessment suitcase equipment, whatever. Yeah, assessment in our case is just one base station with local power plus an handset. That's the difference. Besides, Gigaset is a fine company. Come on. There's nothing wrong with it. No? Just look at it, look into it. I guess we are actually cheaper. Well, Gigaset will hate us for that, but Gigaset is fine. So if the customer likes Gigaset, let him choose Gigaset. If you go into M700, and do not forget, FreeCX, whatever PBX you name, has Snom provisioning, and Snom provisioning normally is more deeply integrated than anything which comes from Gigaset, simply because the company is much bigger than us. So we are more active, let's say. If it's about that, we normally win, but in that part, it's more or less the same. Okay.
Can you implement those DECT solutions with Lync or Skype for Business? Is another question.
Yes. No, we've seen in the list of the audience today that there's quite a couple of companies we know from Lync Business. We do not natively integrate into Lync, so like we do with our handsets, with the normal phones. Why don't we do that? There's a couple of things. First of all, Microsoft wants way too much from let's say from a single cell. So the power maybe should be times 10 or whatever. And there's another thing which no one can control. This is what will change in the what is it what Microsoft wants next year? No one knows. Yeah? That's why we decided to go with decent gateway registrar vendors, like for example Ferrari, because Ferrari integrates the DECT system into Lync, including presence, everything you would expect, very, very nicely. So not us fighting Microsoft basically, or trying to understand what will be what happens after the next patch day. We are basically SIP in this case. DECT is SIP only, but then the gateway does the connection to Microsoft on a base where there is not so many changes like on the handset. So here the strategy is very clear. DECT will not have native Lync or Skype for Business integration, but we already do it via gateway partners. AudioCodes can do. Ferrari is our, let's say, most liked today because it's very flexible, very nice. Sonos, I guess, can do it. Just ask for register integration of SIP devices, and those can put our DECT into Lync.
Okay, as we are already over the time, just a final question, and all the other open questions we will answer per email, or we'll put it into the slides we will send around. Final question, is an open VPN setup possible?
No, OpenVPN. What we are waiting for, we wait for a small device you put in front of the base station, which is basically an auto VPN connector sort of thing. What does work, of course, is you have VLAN and everything. Yeah, but OpenVPN on this system on the basis is not available. Either we put out this, let's call it automatic VPN adapter in front, or we leave it to you to do it on the network side, which to my mind is the best solution here.
Okay, so I think we will end the session now, Oliver, because we are over the time.
Okay, no, let's say we expect we get a lot of questions. Do not hesitate to go on with that, and like we said many times, if you have a project which is sizable, let us know. We help, we look into you, we come with you to the customer, we do the assessment with you, etc. All this Snom can easily do because we have the experience now. And if you don't know if you can do it yourself, we have quite a couple of companies who did successful projects. So maybe it's just an outsourcing thing in your case. We can also refer you to quite decent companies. And it doesn't really matter what PBX, VCX is very nice, Mobidic, amazing system is cool. There's a lot of PBXs have automatic provisioning right now. Just ask us if you're not sure which one to use, or if yours is fine. We will answer.
Okay, so all the participants of this webinar, they will receive an email with the information where to find the presentation, the recording of the session, the answers to the unanswered questions, because we ran out of time, and just an announcement. So we will keep on with this series of webinars about DECT and multicell DECT. We will probably have, in a couple of weeks, we will have a French session, we will have a Spanish session. So if anybody is here in the audience who would like to listen to this webinar again in their native language, we will come up with more webinars to the same topic in different languages.
Okay, thanks a lot to all of you, and let's close the session. Have fun.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a good day.